May 19th, 2020, 5:46 p.m. Edenville Dam, Michigan. Chris and Laura had built their lives around Wixom Lake. Their home sat near the water. For years, they watched boats, fishermen, families. It was peaceful, beautiful. But on that Tuesday evening, everything changed. The 96-year-old dam failed, the east embankment collapsed, and within minutes, an entire lake drained. A wall of water surged downstream, toward their home, toward 10,000 people. Chris and Laura had minutes to evacuate. They grabbed what they could and ran. By the third day, when they returned, their property was destroyed. Floodwater had rushed through, sewage, petroleum contamination. Everything was covered in mud. They used snow shovels to dig out, and by day 3, mold had already started growing. They lost everything: their home, their belongings, their life savings. And they weren't alone. 11,000 residents were impacted, 2,500 buildings damaged or destroyed, 150 homes beyond repair. $200 million in damage, the largest dam failure evacuation in United States history. But here's what makes this story different. The failure wasn't a surprise. Federal regulators had warned for over 20 years that Edenville Dam was dangerous, that the spillways were inadequate, that it posed grave danger to the public. In 2018, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission revoked the dam owner's license for safety violations, but the owner kept operating without a license, without oversight. Because Michigan had no legal authority to regulate unlicensed dams, it was a loophole, and 10,000 people lived downstream as hostages to corporate greed. This is the story of the Edenville and Sanford Dam failures, a preventable disaster, 20 years of warnings ignored, and the owner who prioritized profits over lives.
Edenville Dam was built in the 1920s, 1924 to 1925. It was an earthen embankment dam on the Tittabawassee River in Midland and Gladwin counties, Michigan. The dam created Wixom Lake, a reservoir covering over 2,400 acres. The lake became a community hub. Recreation, fishing, boating, lakeside homes, businesses, tourism. For nearly a century, it defined the area, and people built their lives around it. The dam was privately owned, used for hydroelectric power generation. It produced electricity, not a lot, around $300,000 to $500,000 annually, but enough to be profitable. The owner was Boyce Hydro, LLC, a Michigan corporation owned by Lee Mueller of Las Vegas, Nevada. Mueller also owned 3 other dams in the area: Secord, Smallwood, and Sanford, all on the same river system, all generating hydroelectric power, all aging, and all inadequately maintained. By the late 1990s, problems were emerging. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, oversees hydroelectric dams in the United States, and FERC began noticing deficiencies at Edenville. The spillways were too small. They couldn't handle large floods, Specifically, they could only pass about 50% of the probable maximum flood. That's the largest flood theoretically possible in the area. If that flood occurred, the dam would be overtopped, and it would fail. FERC knew this, and they told Boyce Hydro repeatedly. In 2004, FERC formally ordered spillway capacity upgrades. The estimated cost was $8 million. Boyce Hydro refused. Mueller claimed it was economically infeasible, that the dam didn't generate enough revenue to justify the expense. He argued, he delayed, he filed appeals, and for 16 years he did nothing. FERC kept warning, Boyce kept ignoring, and the dam kept operating, with 10,000 people living downstream. The original construction of Edenville Dam in the 1920s was flawed. That became clear in 2022, when the independent forensic team released their final report. The team was hired by the dam safety community to investigate the failure. And what they found was disturbing. The dam had been built wrong from day one. The design called for specific materials, compacted soils, proper drainage, but the actual construction significantly deviated from the plans. The embankments were built with very loose to loose sands, not the specified materials. The downstream face was built steeper than allowed, and the internal structure lacked proper compaction. These defects created a fundamental vulnerability: static liquefaction. That's when saturated, loose soils suddenly lose strength, like quicksand, and the soil collapses. For 96 years, the dam stood, but the defects were always there, waiting. And no one knew, because the dam was never properly inspected. Or if inspections happened, they missed the problem. The loose sands were buried, hidden inside the embankment, invisible until the right conditions arrived. Heavy rainfall, high reservoir levels, wave action, and then the soil liquefied, and the dam failed. But the construction defects weren't the only problem. Maintenance was also inadequate. Boyce Hydro cut corners, deferred repairs, ignored warnings. The company's history with FERC was one of non-compliance, year after year, violation after violation. And FERC kept pushing, but Boyce kept resisting. Mueller didn't want to spend the money. He wanted profits, and for 2 decades, he got away with it.
In 2017, FERC escalated. They issued a formal warning. The Edenville Dam posed a serious risk to life and property. Spillway capacity must be increased immediately. If not, the license would be revoked. Boyce Hydro still refused. And in 2018, FERC followed through. The hydroelectric license was revoked. Boyce Hydro could no longer legally generate power. But here's the problem. FERC only regulates licensed hydroelectric facilities.
Once the license was gone, FERC had no enforcement authority, and Michigan state law didn't cover unlicensed dams. It was a legal loophole. Boise Hydro kept operating without a license, without oversight, and without accountability. Between 2018 and 2020, the situation deteriorated. Multiple issues were reported: erosion, spillway failures, inability to meet flood requirements. In April 2020, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, authorized maintaining Wixom Lake's water levels, despite known risks, despite warnings. The state allowed it because they claimed they had no jurisdiction. It was a private dam, unlicensed, and Michigan law didn't give them authority. So the water stayed high, and the clock kept ticking. On May 17th and 18th, 2020, heavy rain fell, 4 to 7 inches across the region. The Tittabawassee River began rising. Inflows to Wixom Lake increased. The reservoir level climbed. Boise Hydro knew heavy rain was forecast, but they didn't lower the water levels. Lowering levels would reduce hydroelectric generation and reduce profits. So they kept the reservoir full, maximizing power output, even as the storm approached, even as the danger grew. On May 19th, the situation became critical. Inflows exceeded capacity. The spillways couldn't handle the volume. Water began flowing over the embankments. Wave action from high winds battered the dam, and at 5:46 p.m., the east embankment failed. A section approximately 900 feet long collapsed. The failure was captured on video by a witness. The embankment just slumped, slid away, like it was melting. That's static liquefaction. The loose sands lost strength, and the dam gave way. Wixom Lake drained in minutes. 11 billion gallons of water gone. The surge traveled downstream, 10 miles, toward Sanford Dam. Sanford Dam was also owned by Boise Hydro, and it was also in poor condition. FERC had concerns about Sanford, too. When the wall of water hit, Sanford was overtopped. Water flowed over the dam, around it. The dam didn't breach, but it was overwhelmed, and more water surged downstream toward Midland. Emergency Management Coordinator Jennifer Boyer made the call: evacuate 10,000 people immediately. It was May 19th, 2020, the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Social distancing was impossible. Evacuation shelters were packed. Families fled with whatever they could carry. Some went to relatives. Some went to hotels. Some slept in their cars. And they waited, hoping their homes would survive. The Tittabawassee River crested at 35.05 feet, the highest level ever recorded in Midland. Downtown was submerged, businesses flooded, homes destroyed. The Dow Chemical Complex, one of the largest chemical plants in the world, was surrounded by water, but it didn't breach. Critical infrastructure held, barely. And by Thursday, May 21st, the water began receding. People returned and saw the damage. Chris and Laura returned to their property. The floodwater had come from everywhere. It rushed onto their land, buried everything in mud, sewage, petroleum. By day 3, mold was already growing. They dug out using snow shovels, anything they could find, but it was hopeless. Their home was ruined, their property contaminated, and their lives were destroyed. Kim Borchard said it best, "This is a blue-collar area. People work for this stuff, and it's gone."
The immediate aftermath was chaos. 2,500 buildings damaged, 150 homes beyond repair, $200 million in property damage, 11,000 residents impacted, and miraculously 0 fatalities. The evacuation worked. People got out in time, but their lives were shattered. Investigations began immediately. The independent forensic team spent 2 years analyzing the failure. Their May 2022 report was damning. The failure was foreseeable and preventable. The dam was constructed with defects in the 1920s. Boyce Hydro knew about the inadequate spillways since at least 2004. FERC had ordered upgrades. Boyce refused. The state authorized high water levels despite warnings, and Lee Mueller prioritized profits over safety. For 20 years, until the dam failed, and 10,000 people paid the price. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel filed criminal charges in 2022 against Boyce Hydro, against Lee Mueller. Multiple felonies, willful neglect of duty, misconduct in office, environmental damage. The charges alleged that defendants knew the Edenville Dam embankment might fail, and they did nothing. The state also filed a civil lawsuit seeking fines, compensation, remediation costs. In November 2023, a federal judge found Lee Mueller liable, $119 million, a default judgment, because Mueller refused to appear in court. He'd been dodging accountability the entire time. Mueller tried to file for bankruptcy in Nevada, his home state. In March 2024, the bankruptcy court denied it. Judge August Landis called it a bad faith filing. Mueller was trying to escape the judgment, and the court wasn't allowing it. The judge dismissed the case, and the $119 million judgment stood. But here's the problem. Mueller doesn't have $119 million. Boyce Hydro is bankrupt. The dams are gone, and the victims won't see full compensation ever. As of 2025, 5 years after the disaster, the community is still struggling. Edenville Dam remains breached. Wixom Lake is drained, a mudflat. The lake that defined the area for a century is gone, and it's not coming back. Repair costs are estimated in the hundreds of millions. Property owners are financially burdened for decades. Some are still fighting insurance companies. Others have given up, moved away, started over somewhere else. And Lee Mueller lives in Las Vegas, untouched, unpunished, free.
The Edenville and Sanford Dam failures exposed a nationwide crisis. The United States has 91,000 dams. 15,500 are rated high hazard. That means failure would cause loss of life. Many are privately owned. Many are aging. The average age is 57 years, and many are inadequately maintained. Owners prioritize profits, defer repairs, ignore warnings, and when disasters happen, they declare bankruptcy and walk away. After Edenville, regulators discovered hundreds of unlicensed dams operating without oversight, legal loopholes in multiple states, dams that lost hydroelectric licenses but kept operating, with no agency responsible, no inspections, no enforcement, just ticking bombs, with communities living downstream, unaware, unprotected, and the owners making money until the dam fails, and then they disappear. The story also highlights regulatory failure. FERC warned for 20 years, but had no power to act after license revocation. Michigan claimed no jurisdiction. EGLE authorized high water levels despite risks. Emergency management was criticized for evacuating too late or too early, depending on who you ask. Everyone blamed everyone else, and no one took responsibility until it was too late. Climate change is making it worse. Heavier rainfall, more frequent flooding, aging dams designed for historical climate patterns can't handle modern conditions. The probable maximum flood is increasing, but the infrastructure isn't, and owners won't pay for upgrades. So the failures will continue. Oroville Dam in California almost failed in 2017, evacuated 188,000 people. Edenville failed in 2020. How many more are waiting? How many communities are living below high-hazard dams, owned by companies like Boyce Hydro, run by people like Lee Mueller, who won't spend the money until it's too late?
The Edenville Dam failed on May 19, 2020, after 20 years of warnings, after FERC ordered upgrades in 2004, after the license was revoked in 2018, and after Lee Mueller refused to spend $8 million because it wasn't profitable. 10,000 people evacuated, 2,500 buildings destroyed, $200 million in damage, and zero accountability. Mueller was found liable, $119 million, but he doesn't have it, and he filed bad faith bankruptcy trying to escape. The judge denied it. But the victims still won't be made whole. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This will happen again. The United States has 15,500 high-hazard dams,
many privately owned, many inadequately maintained, many operating without oversight, and owners like Lee Mueller prioritize profits over lives until the dam fails, and then they declare bankruptcy and walk away, leaving communities destroyed and taxpayers footing the bill. Edenville was preventable, but it wasn't prevented, because the system is broken and no one has fixed it. If you want to uncover more stories of American infrastructure hiding dark secrets, subscribe to Hidden America. Next time, we'll explore the St. Francis Dam collapse in California, where William Mulholland's arrogance killed over 400 people in 1928. We'll investigate the ignored warnings, the unstable foundation, and why Mulholland took full responsibility but faced no criminal charges. Subscribe now for more hidden infrastructure stories. And remember, the Edenville Dam is still breached, Wixom Lake is still drained, and Lee Mueller is still in Las Vegas, free, while 11,000 residents are still rebuilding 5 years later, because he wouldn't spend $8 million to save their lives.